Sorry about that, Rob. Hey, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. Kind of left you out to dry there for a second. If you're watching on the live stream, I just stole the limelight. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. 3rd of October, also a day when I lost my voice. Apparently, there was I'm literally clearing my throat.
Yeah, is this an allergy thing for you? Because
I think so.
Normally, I get seasonal allergies, and I normally would wake up like September 1st and just begin sneezing.
Okay.
This year, it happened on October 1st. Basically, woke up the beginning of the month sneezing, bloody noses, which is not a fun thing. Yeah. So maybe is it a seasonal allergy thing for you, Doug, or you?
Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. Old men talking about their health issues. Remember when we were lions? Hey, I don't know. No, I feel like it's a cold. I didn't feel well. Took a COVID test last night. But here's a question for you, Rob. I took a COVID test that said the expiration date was like September of 2022. Do you think I should have trusted it? And I'd love to hear people's chats or comments in the chat if they think someone should trust an a year-old expired COVID test.
Yeah, I live with a person who doesn't pay much attention to expiration dates, and that often makes me nervous. I feel like expiration dates generally are put too soon, simply before trying to. It is a marketing ploy. To get people to, planned obsolescence and purchase more. I think on the other hand, I don't know. COVID tests expire?
Well, I didn't know. But I did look at, what happened was, here's what happened. I opened the box on the COVID test and there was a Vote Common Good sticker in there, like a round Vote Common Good sticker. And I thought, hey, that was when we were traveling around on buses during a pandemic. So that was what caused me to look at the expiration date. And there's always been enough false positives or negative, false negatives on those tests because they say, look, they can only be so good, and depends on how far up you stick the thing and all that. So I had some questions. And I really hope that for the next hour, if someone tolerates their way through the live stream and podcast, that they're not like, the mirror neurons in my brain that create empathy, where we mirror another person's experience. That's why we get the shivers when we, see an accident or watch professional sports, cheer for other people's successes. The reason pornography works. Oh, people aren't like, you know what? I feel like I'm listening to a sick person say sick person things this whole time. So I was iffy about the efficacy of all this.
Yeah, I know we're gonna get into all the stories and probably have a little bit of fun with them as we normally do. Can we just take a moment to pause and just recognize the complete and utter chaos that we are living in the midst of?
Fair enough.
I'm not sure there's ever been a moment in U.S.
Just setting up our tranquil moment. Since we're
crickets,
we're just gonna take a moment and be in the calm.
Crickets, I think, has a different connotation. So I'm not sure we've ever been in a moment that has included all of this stuff.
All of it, yeah.
The President of the United States is the subject of an impeachment inquiry. The son of the President of the United States has been charged with crimes.
He's appearing in federal court today on an arraignment.
The former President of the United States, who is running to be once again President of the United States, has been indicted 4 times, 91 charges. He has been calling for the execution of military leaders. And he is currently in court for fraud. The Speaker of the House has, in a nearly unprecedented move, had one of the members of his own party call for his office to be vacated because he brought forward a bill that would keep the government from shutting down. Senator from New Jersey has been indicted. The minority leader of the Senate has a medical condition that causes him to freeze mid-speech. Supreme Court justice has been scrutinized for failing to report gifts and trips. And he serves on a Supreme Court that is completely delegitimized itself, both in the way that multiple members of the Supreme Court were selected and put on the court, and its decisions that it's made. Doug, we are in a moment where every branch of the federal government is in crisis. It is, I mean, it's remarkable. Like, there is not a single place in the, you know, we talk all about the brilliance of the American system of government, and I mean, there is not a place in our federal government right now where you can turn and go, okay, they got it together. It's
and I will add,
absolutely ridiculous.
And I'd like to add, I have a cold. I mean, just in
this moment, it's a significant thing.
The long bank of many things that people ought to be concerned about.
Yes.
Look, that is a well put together articulation of the situation we find ourselves in.
It's just like it's so easy. I mean, we're gonna jump into these different stories. We're gonna give our analysis and have some laughs. But I think it's just important to pull back for a second and just say, like, what is going on here?
Like the two of us are. It's going to be
everywhere.
Like 4 non-blondes. What's going on? We're going to be singing out loud. Yeah, look, it's all happening. True is that. I will say, of the long list of things, well, and a sitting senator has died and someone needs to be appointed. I forget that little doozy, which may or may not have put the balance of control of the Senate into question. Or maybe it's still okay now because it's 50-50. No, it's 49.
But then you got the 50, independents and
50-40. You know? I don't know how it works. Yeah, that's right. Because there's a number of Democrats that the caucus of the Democrats that are not Democrats. Bernie Sanders being one of them, not a Democrat. So, you know, that's just sort of how it goes. They got to hold their own little caucus together with non-party members supporting the Democratic Party. Yeah, and we're going to get to all of that. But let's check in on the weather. Rob, how's the weather there in Springdale?
Beautiful. The weather's beautiful.
At least that. Good. Okay, Mr. Gloomy. Mr. Sky is falling. Hey, remember that time we were in, I don't know, Pennsylvania or something? We were Wisconsin, maybe. We were running an event. We were waiting for a candidate to show up. It then got canceled, our event outside, because a tornado came through. Remember that? And we were trying to decide if we were going to meet under that tree. And we're standing there with the tree. And honestly, friends, a squirrel fell out of the tree and hit the ground 4 feet from us and just laid there stunned. We got our cameras out and we're like, I think a squirrel just died or suicided out of that tree onto the ground. Then the little thing apparently just shook it off after, I don't know, a few minutes and popped up and took off running. Yeah. So I only bring that up because when I've heard the phrase "the sky is falling," I'm like, well, if it does fall, it's going to be squirrels. There are squirrels falling from trees. Yeah. That's sort of I think that's a great illustration of what you just described, that the squirrels are falling from the skies. Yeah, well, hey, look here in Minnesota. It's been super hot. I see Kimberly is on, and apparently Kimberly Johnson is doing a 2-for-1 today. She watched apparently this morning the red hat blue hat talk from yesterday. And
Listen,
Kimberly, if you managed
Casey
your way
was
through that hour and a half and then came back for more,
whew,
you are a super fan. We should have a button where we give you $5 on YouTube.
Doug, I do want to register this complaint that Casey was not wearing a red hat.
Yes, it's true. He's red hat in spirit. He had a hat on that said impeach Biden, though. So that was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently he's chipped
Okay.
into the old
It's red
fundraiser.
hat in spirit. Yep.
Yeah. If you're wearing a hat that you probably spent $50 on in order to make a donation to a political party, uh, if you don't know what we're talking about, friends, we do run this live stream and podcast multiple times during the week, and basically now it's turned into every other Monday. I have a conversation with a dear friend of mine and a Trump supporter, and we talk about that and trying to understand each other. And boy, I got going on the libertarian thing yesterday, and it's got my juices flowing. I got a taste of the blood in the water, like a shark. Boy, I'd love to talk about libertarians all day long. But hey, it's so hot in Minneapolis. Back to my joke. So hot in Minneapolis. How hot is it? On
How hot
Sunday,
is it, Doug?
well, on Sunday, 2 days ago, they canceled the Twin Cities Marathon. There were
Wow.
20,000 people preparing to run. And at 5:30 in the morning, they canceled it because it
Because of
was too
heat.
hot. Just
Wow.
just let that settle in. All right. Should we jump right into the stories? I mean, we have so many. I think there's 8 different stories that we just have screen captures for, and we're probably going to remember a variety of more. But why don't we start with what's going on in the House? Like you said, that old Matt Gaetz, the old guy who was criminally charged with underage solicitation, has now decided that his moral compass needs to be brought to bear on Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And he has put forth a vote that he negotiated to have at his beck and call back in January, that any one member can call for the ouster of the Speaker of the House, something that didn't used to be the option. You had to get a quorum or a bunch of people. They negotiated that. Kevin McCarthy gave it to him, and now Gaetz has used it. And they're not going to have enough Republicans to support Kevin McCarthy staying in his job. The only way he can do it is either if Democrats vote for him, or if Democrats vote present or don't show up for the vote, and it lowers the overall threshold, and then having 5 or 7 or 9 people is not going to be enough. What do you think about all this, Rob?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the thing that ultimately ticked off Matt Gaetz enough to call for the vacating of the speaker's office is the fact that Kevin McCarthy brought a what they call a clean bill,
Yeah.
a clean continuing resolution, a CR, because Congress has not passed a budget. That is why, because of their dereliction of duty, we have this political brinkmanship, this game of chicken with people's livelihoods. Yeah. And the government was going to shut down, and Kevin McCarthy kind of, I think, made the political calculation that he would be tagged with that. He would get the blame for that, because every time the government shuts down,
Yeah.
Republicans try to blame it on the Democrats, and every time they take the L because it's their fault. And so Kevin McCarthy's like, I don't want to do this. I like, keep the government open. And so he brought that bill. It got Democrat support, and Matt Gaetz didn't like it. So he's like, you did something I don't like. So
yeah,
I'm gonna remove you from office. Now, so interesting. I don't know if you found this interesting. I don't know if you've seen this, Doug. This motion to vacate is typically used as a threat. It's very rarely ever like brought before the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
I think it's only happened one other time, when John Boehner was Speaker of the House, the well-tanned, crying, pot smoking, cigarette smoking
drinker,
former congressman from Ohio. I mean, there's a lot of things we could say about John Boehner. Do you know who brought the motion to vacate? I didn't know this before all these reports. The only time in the history of the United States Congress that a motion to vacate has actually been filed, it was filed against John Boehner by Mark Meadows.
Oh, wow.
Who became chief of staff to the most corrupt president we've ever had.
Incredible. Well, hey, and part of the reason I think that it has been so unusual is that the threshold has normally been much higher. When they went to this point that anyone can call for the vacating, that they negotiated that in the terms to elect Kevin McCarthy this time. Yeah. So it's a little easier. It's a little easier to do it now. But they set it up to be easier so they could do this.
Yeah, what it is traditionally, it's been any member could do it, and then they changed that.
Yes, and they changed away from it
to be 5 members, and what they did is they negotiated it back to what it had always been. So,
yep,
you know,
yep. Look, and they normally don't have the margins that are so tight that they have right now. And this is what happened because Democrats in New York could not figure out how to run elections in 2022. Let's just be clear. The reason there's 5-seat majority for Republicans is because Democrats didn't take care of their business in California and New York. States they should have won, races they should have won, and they didn't. Those congressional races really matter. We didn't have to be living through all this. My own personal opinion is they should take Kevin McCarthy out. Remove him, because this guy, say all you want, and well, who else are we going to get? Look, okay, then just get another one. And if that one's a problem, let Republicans remove that one, or let the moderates remove that one. Just keep cycling through. But don't settle. Please, Democrats, don't settle for this. It would just be so sad if the way Kevin McCarthy, this guy who chose to stand on the floor of the House and say, Donald Trump bears responsibility, and then because he can't figure out how to fundraise, goes right back down to Donald Trump, wraps himself around him and reignites him, and then makes it a handshake deal with Joe Biden about the spending bills and goes back on it. Then makes a deal with Matt Gaetz and goes back on it. Just be done with this guy. And if Emmer or Scalise or someone else is also a problem, well, let's go to the next one. I mean, and these people talking about, well,
we've done this
probably
before.
Better than somebody else who would be even worse. I mean, okay. Kevin McCarthy has been trying to be the speaker since he was running the Benghazi hearings against Clinton and made the mistake of saying out loud. And, everybody thought Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in until we started the Benghazi hearings. Like, this guy's been a negative political operator the entire time who's not trusted. Just be done with Kevin McCarthy. Please. I mean, that would be you need a fresh start. And look, the Democrats are not going to want to feel like they negotiated enough to keep Kevin McCarthy in. And the Republicans are going to not want Kevin McCarthy if they think the Democrats made that possible. The hard part here is Matt Gaetz gets a win. Matt Gaetz. Unbelievable.
Okay. Hey, so here, about 4 minutes ago, here's a statement from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who, by the way, just, wow. Here's a statement. Democrats are going to continue to push for people over politics and to fight to make life better for everyday Americans. From the very beginning, that has been our objective, and it will continue to be our sole focus delivering for the American people. We encourage our Republican colleagues who claim to be more traditional to break from the extremists. end the chaos, end the dysfunction, and the extremism. We are ready, willing, and able to work together with our Republican colleagues, but it's on them to join us to move the Congress and the country forward.
I heard
What's he going to do?
Speaker Jeffries say that with his overly gesturing, out of rhythm hand movements this morning on Morning Joe. Hey, and by the way, he does have a very odd hand gesture motions. Have you seen it? Have you noticed it? They move
as opposed to Donald Trump, who just does this.
Yeah, they move in ways that don't seem to match the thing that he's saying. But I was in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, and I was just walking to kind of a side street around the back of a building to head over to another thing. And I saw a couple of really fancy black cars sitting out in front, SUVs sitting out in front of a little side door. And so as I got up to those, I looked over, here comes
Future Speaker
Jeffries walking up. And the guy has a way of walking that's kind of a strut. It was awesome. So I just stopped and said, hey, man, really appreciate your work and all you're doing. He was very gracious, nice little handshake. But he is smooth. When he talks to a camera, his hands move sort of funny. But boy, the guy floats when he walks. Like he needs to have like walking things. He is just very, very cool fella. So look, what you could read into his comments is, oh, hey, Republicans, pick a moderate.
Not our circus, not our circus, not our monkeys.
Yeah, I heard Swalwell say that. But you also could hear him saying this. You could read into it this. We're ready to work with you. Let's pick somebody moderate. Let's pick somebody from the Problem Solvers Caucus, and you will get all the Democrats you need. We'll help you on one of those people. We're not going to help you on a Scalise or an Emmer or a McCarthy or a Gates or one of those. But if you want our votes to get a speaker, it's got to be somebody that we're more happy with. They could be in a very good position right now to not negotiate terms like here's bills we're going to pass or something, because as if any speaker is going to actually do that or follow through on it. But they could say, we want somebody moderate. We want moderate by Republican standards, which still puts them way over on the edge. So that could be really interesting. Don't you think that what we could end up with in a week is somebody else who's been a negotiated person and they get, 360 or 400 votes or whatever they need. And then that really aces out the hardcore Republicans, because the other Republicans come together and say, we're not tolerating this stuff from all of you anymore. And we're not going along with it. So it could be fascinating if we got to something like that. Hey, okay, back to the House. Let's stay in the House for a minute.
Okay, hold on before can I make a bold prediction?
Oh yeah, hang on a second. All right, hot take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a hot take. I got a bold. I like to be loud wrong here on the on the podcast, so I'm gonna do it again. I think before the week is out, we're going to learn a lot of stuff about Matt Gaetz that we didn't want to know.
Okay. All right. Hot take.
They are, Kevin McCarthy is going to Madison Cawthorn Matt Gaetz.
Look, it could be. I know your articulation, which is not inaccurate, but I don't think it's all fully accurate. The thing that bothered Matt Gaetz that got him to call for the vacating of this role of Kevin McCarthy is that Kevin McCarthy has pushed for an ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz. That's what really has him opposed to Kevin McCarthy. So you're right. So now if what Gaetz is doing is like, hey, I'm going to kind of save my reputation by pitting myself even more against these people, they might all see it coming.
Listen, Madison Cawthorn made himself a stench in the nostrils of Republican Party leadership in the House. And the next thing we knew, there's videos and pictures of Madison Cawthorn in compromising positions. And
Literally.
that it just boom, it happened. It's gonna happen with Matt Gaetz.
Okay.
Matt Gaetz,
Hot take.
before the week is out,
Oh,
Matt Gaetz will be
we're going to be hearing some things.
publicly humiliated.
Yeah. All right.
So
Hey,
you want to
okay. Well, hang on. Yabbits is
Yabbits.
asking. Okay, because Yabbits is asking
Wow.
about
Yeah.
the statements from General Kelly. We're going to get to that because Yabbits, I know last week you were bothered that we didn't raise the issue of the shutdown, and part of the reason we didn't is that we forgot to put it up and ran out of time. But the other reason is they were never going to shut that government down. There was no way Kevin McCarthy. He was always going to cut a deal with the Democrats to not shut the government down. All the brokers behind Republicanism said, you will not do this, or we are. I mean, they put the hammer down hard. So it was always just a gamesmanship of bluffery and nonsense.
You know what can shut things down? Is when a fire alarm gets pulled.
Good one. Good transition. I was going to say, sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. And sometimes when there's no fire, you pull the fire alarm. All right.
Okay. I need to just say up top.
Okay.
Jamal Bowman, Congressman Bowman, is a friend of mine.
Okay.
Yeah. He.
Okay. You got. Yeah. Have you been in touch? Have you asked him for a hot take? Have you asked him to come on the podcast?
I have not asked him to come on the podcast to explain himself.
Please.
I did send him a note of encouragement and told him to stand strong, and because I love him. Maybe not his best choice here.
Look, and you know, our very own Alex from the comments sent me a couple of nice pieces over the last few days. I looked at both of those, Alex, and I don't know. There are a few explanations for what went on. For people that don't know, a congressman, Jamal Bowman, while trying to, just before one of the votes, I think was it on the shutdown? Was that the thing?
Yes.
You want to go about?
Yes. Yep.
Pulled the fire alarm in an adjacent building to the building where the votes were being taken.
Not exactly adjacent, but
not the same building. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an office building. It was not at the Capitol building.
Yes, it wasn't at the Capitol building. Wasn't going to stop the thing at the Capitol building. And then went out the doors to his right from where he pulled it. If you look at the video, you can see this. Went out the doors and then hurried quickly over to place the vote. Okay. Yep. So that's what happened. That's what happened. Yeah. Why it happened?
The
Republicans are saying.
Yeah. The narrative was created that Jamal Bowman didn't like the way the vote was going to go. Democrats were trying to delay the vote. And so he pulled the fire alarm to cause the evacuation of the building that would then delay the vote. And now the problem with that is he pulled the fire alarm in an office building, not in the Capitol building. That office building did have to be evacuated, as happens when a fire alarm gets pulled. People in the Capitol building did not know that the fire alarm had been pulled. Like it didn't, the alarm did not sound over there, and it did not delay the vote. So like none of the things that they said would happen were going to happen. Now, what Congressman Bowman says is that he needed to get out of the building quickly to get over to that Capitol to vote. There's signage there about how the doors that are right behind him in this photo are emergency exit doors only, and an alarm will sound if you open them. He says that that the doors were locked, and he thought that they would automatically unlock if the fire alarm was pulled.
Yes. It's just either a terrible choice or a terrible excuse.
I mean, the really funny thing is that Congressman Bowman is a former middle school principal.
Yeah. He's probably familiar with people pulling fire alarms for varieties of reasons. Yeah, Rob, it's just bad. I don't.
What do you do when your friends do something that's just like just a little cringy?
You step closer. It's all you can do. You step closer to your friends. Yeah. Look, if you want to assign negative intentions, the fact that he then left, ran quickly over to the voting place, got there in time to vote, and they didn't hear the alarm doesn't answer the question, or doesn't defeat the argument that that's why he did it. He may, just because it didn't work doesn't mean that's not why he did it, right? So this thing, a lot of Democrats are saying, like, well, he couldn't have wanted to stop the vote because it was in another building. Well, maybe he thought it was going to, I mean, the whole lot, right? If you're going to assign negative attributions to people's behaviors, then, it doesn't have to have worked, right? It could have been a faulty attempt, a blunder, but it's what he wanted to do. I don't know that's what he wanted to do. He says that's not what he wanted to do. There are no situations in which you pull a fire alarm, though. This is just like, because you can't get out the door. Look, and this is my attitude when people drive too quickly. Your lack of planning should not become a crisis for the rest of us. Get there on time. Like, don't be in another building or be late and not have 2 minutes to walk down the hallway to another door. I mean, look, there's just I don't know what level Congressman Bowman is going to own this, but he better come out with a crisis management response, which is like, I have made some bad choices in moments of, that didn't harm anyone. And this one, I might be known as the fire alarm guy for the rest of my terms in Congress, right? Like, he better just own it and not be like, well, there's a sign there that seemed to implicate that I needed to pull the fire alarm for the alarm on the door to go up. I don't know. It just, this kind of stuff, none of us should have to think about. Nobody. No, we shouldn't have to be talking about it.
We should not have to have opinions about this.
Thank you. That's a good way to say it. The long list of things that you detailed of what are going on shouldn't also be, and a congressman didn't know how to get out of the doors or was running so late that he felt pulling the fire alarm was the best choice.
Yeah, I almost included it in my list. But it seemed not quite as, because I was going for like really serious things that are happening.
Yes.
And like the speaker, the House of Representatives today is going to vote on whether or not the Speaker of the House is going to be vacated, which isn't this just another word for impeached?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you have to prove somebody's.
I know, but
I just think you're fired.
It's a synonym.
Vacating and synonym. Okay, could be. He's got the power of impeachment. Hey, speaking of impeachment, Clarence Thomas.
Oh my
Clarence Thomas,
this guy
has now one of the longer serving members, current longest serving member on the Supreme Court. Is that right?
Is he?
Right.
Yeah, he might
Who's been there longer? One who has more of his what do they call the people who work for him? One of his clerks. More clerks from Clarence Thomas are in judgeships in the country than any other Supreme Court justice. So he has more impact in the judiciary than anybody else. This guy, whose wife has been working for right-wing organizations, lying about the money they've made. He's had all this stuff. Finally recused himself from a case, but not because of his own ethical violations, not because of his wife's ethical violations, not because he says that he could be impartial, simply because the case involves one of his former law clerks. Oh, one of those former law clerks? Somebody who was running Donald Trump's fake elector scheme. I mean, Rob, you can't. I don't even think did this one make it to your list of what's the problem? I mean, it could just be shorthanded into Clarence Thomas. But this tells me that someone's gotten to Clarence Thomas and has said to him, look, we have to restore some trust in the Supreme Court in this country. This is just too much. Just too much.
Yeah.
It's
well, yes.
It feels like we're back to episodes of This Guy Has Got to Go, but we just have so many
of them.
People. All right.
We could do Clarence Thomas. This guy's got to go. All of these bozos.
All right. So the Republican debate was last Tuesday, I think, or last Wednesday, maybe last week. There were 7 Republicans standing on a stage presenting themselves to the Republican voters as the one who should be the nominee for the party. I just want to make a couple of comments about this. We really have to rethink the debate format overall.
Yeah.
7, 5, 9 people standing on a stage behind a podium, asked a question by 2 or 3 moderators, and giving them 2 minutes to respond doesn't help anyone make any decisions about their political commitment to these individuals. It's such a bad format. You remember the one format? I know this was just a 2-person format, but it was way back in the good old days when it was a highly conservative hedge fund manager named Mitt Romney. And he was running against the current president of the United States, Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. Remember when they sat at the table? This was the time when Obama said, Russia as our number 1 geopolitical enemy? Oh, we also don't have boats or whatever. Okay, Obama was wrong about that one. Romney was right about that one.
Mitt Romney was right.
As it turns out, he mocked him mercilessly. But that format was so much better. They literally talked to each other, not at each other through a moderator. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, these debate committees and commissions and people putting this together, it's like you could come up with some very interesting ways to have a debate over 2 hours with a group of people. You could pair them up. You could put them in groups of 3. You could have those 3 talk for a bit. You have another group of 3 people. Then you bring them all together for closing comments. And, hey, you heard somebody say something and you didn't have a chance to talk to them. Like there's a way. There's a creative way. But people standing with black and blue suits and red ties or with, a red dress and a black shawl, just it's so dumb. And no one says, boy, that's really important to me. I should really listen to that. So that's just overall, these are not good formats. And now we can talk a little bit about the topics of what they were up to if you want to.
I mean, no, I don't even want to, other than to say a couple of things about this. One, all the dudes at this debate were in the blue suit, white tie, red, or white shirt, red tie. There was no variation,
Unbelievable.
Which so weird to me. Like you don't see everybody in a red tie and you go, give me the green one. Like, like,
or somebody coming out in a red suit and a black tie.
Oh, that now you're talking. Second of all, Vivek's hair was so tall. It was just, it was weird. Third of all, what's the deal with Ron DeSantis? Like, Doug, I texted you things. He is so awkward and weird. The way he'll answer a question and then awkwardly smile. It's just, it is. I mean, you were talking about future Speaker Jeffries, odd hand motions. Ron DeSantis is like a bobblehead when he talks. Mm-hmm. And then he does this like awkward smile thing at the end. He's so strange.
Yeah, he is awkward looking. And look, I mean, I was saying this a year ago when people were like, DeSantis is going to take over. He's like Trump, but smarter. Like that is not what I've been hearing from any of the political people I know in
Florida.
Can you talk for a second? There's no noise going on back here.
I mean, it's just there's kind of the perception from the outside. And then once you get closer in and the, the lid gets lifted on something, the hood gets lifted, you see what's underneath there, and it's just like there's not substance here. Maybe Donald Trump is right that he is the reason that Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. It has very little to do with Ron DeSantis himself, because Ron DeSantis is weird.
People around the campaign, people around Florida are like, this guy, he's not likable. He doesn't like people. He's a bad politician. When he gets out in the national scope, people are not going to respond well to him. Do not worry about Ron DeSantis. Turns out, totally. I mean, you just do little cuts of, just like you were saying, his comments and then his reactions after. Just like, this person doesn't. And look, we can say all we want about who the president is, or a lot of politicians. People pick their political parties with some information about policy, but they don't vote for individuals based on policy. They vote for it on identity. And do they like the person? A lot of us would want that to be different, but it's not. That's just simply the case. And this guy is unlikable.
Yes. There's a great book called The Political Brain, which makes the point that we all like to think of ourselves as rational and making rational decisions. The reality is the vast majority of us do not make rational decisions. We make emotional decisions.
Yep.
And Ron DeSantis doesn't make people feel good. He also doesn't make people feel angry. Like, he doesn't cause people to feel fear. There's different emotions that are
it's awkward.
He's so weird. Like, you need to search up, as my now 9-year-old daughter might say, because she doesn't use the word Google. She says, "Search it up, Dad." You need to search up the video of Ron DeSantis before the debate. Maybe it was during a commercial break, I'm not sure. Getting his makeup done on stage.
Okay.
Doug, you have this in your text. I texted it to you. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
Just this morning?
No.
Days ago?
During Wednesday, apparently.
Oh.
Wednesday at 10:41 p.m. I texted it to you.
I was in bed.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was in our group text. And granted, there's a lot of weird stuff that gets texted in that group text, but
you have often said to me, how would you feel if somebody got control of your phone? And I'm like, I wouldn't care. There's nothing in my phone except that group text that I'm in with you and a few other people. That
it's producer Dan's in there, and
people would have to say things like, why did someone think sending you this would be a good idea?
But there is a video of Ron DeSantis getting his makeup done. He's just so awkward and weird. You just watch it, like, a human being does not behave like this.
I do remember in one of our group texts, though, we were saying, look, I think DeSantis is out, doesn't have a chance. Here's what could happen. Trump drops out of the race, or what I think is going to happen, he's going to strike a plea deal that will include him not running or seeking public office. So sometime in the spring, summer, he's out. DeSantis, not likable enough. Insert Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
And all the Republicans who were never Trumpers come back home. A lot of people start to say, I've really wanted a woman president. This feels like sanity has returned. And that could be a real issue for if a Democrat stays in the White House. I think.
Listen, Nikki Haley
is one of the only ones who could do that.
Nikki Haley is eminently qualified to be president of the United States.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
especially grading on a curve. Included
the last. But I mean, you just factually. I'm not pulling for Glenn Youngkin. I think Glenn Youngkin will be. Yeah, that's just saying. I was pulling for Glenn Youngkin.
No, you are.
I'm pulling for him, but
you have a prediction riding on it. I told you I was right.
That's pulling for the guy. Somebody asked me yesterday. Somebody said to me yesterday, "Rob, you got any new predictions?" And I said, "No, I still think it's Gavin Newsom against Glenn Youngkin." But that being said, I think you're absolutely right, because you can you look at Nikki Haley, she's not a lightweight. She's not a Sarah Palin type person. She has serious qualifications, legitimate qualifications to be president of the United States, governor of a state, ambassador to the United Nations. Like she legit could be president of the United States. And frankly, Democrats ought to be a little bit nervous in a heads-up race between Nikki Haley and Joe Biden.
Right, because the conditions that have made so many people flee from the Republican Party, and they still feel awkward about it. A lot of them, we work with them. That's what we do. Help people who want to separate their identities from their political and their other identities from Republicanism. Some of those people would love to come back home to the Republican Party. And Nikki Haley is the kind of person it doesn't need to take a lot because, look, unfortunately, 45 states are already settled on who they're going to vote for in the Electoral College. There's 5 states that generally are up for grabs, maybe 6. And across those 5 states, you're talking about maybe 100,000 people across the states. 9,000 in some states, 15,000 in others, 20. Guys, all I need is 11,700 votes because that was the margin of victory in Florida, and the same thing in Arizona, and the same thing in Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and Michigan, right? Well, Michigan was a little bit higher. There's that many people who are never Trumpers who would come home to Nikki Haley.
Yep.
And there's a lot of moderate Democrats who would be like, maybe it would be time for a woman to be president, and maybe I would hold it's a serious thing. If Republicans wanted to win, that's what they would do. And it's deeply concerning to me because I think Nikki Haley's ideas are really bad ideas for a president. What she said about Vivek. Did you watch the debate enough to see what she said during the debate about Vivek?
She's getting dumber just listening to him.
It's like a line from some comedy movie. I feel like I'm getting dumber every time you talk.
Yeah.
But she also said, speaking of Vivek Ramaswamy urges us to lift up all Americans rather than to pit ourselves against one another. His combination of honesty, intellect, and foresight are exactly what we need to overcome our challenges in the years ahead. Nikki Haley about Vivek. His intellect, honesty, and foresight are exactly what we need. That's what she wrote in a blurb for his book. Look, I mean, I've written many a blurb for a book.
Yeah.
But never anything that then 2 years later, I would stand on a stage with someone and say, actually, the more I hear you talk, the dumber I feel.
Well, Doug, I think you wrote a blurb for one of my books, maybe both of my books. I don't know. And I feel like you might say that to me on a stage.
When she said it, I did think, make a note. That's a pretty good little.
That's right.
That's a pretty good little line. But anyway, she worries me.
I think
I don't think they're going to nominate Nikki Haley and the Republicans because she's a not crazy, right wing politician, and she's a woman.
Yeah.
And what else I learned as a little note about Nikki Haley?
Yeah.
You know what she did in 2012 as governor? She appointed Tim Scott as senator of South Carolina.
Yep.
Tim Scott got in by being appointed.
Yeah.
And then was reelected.
Yes.
As the sitting senator. Appointed.
Yeah.
Tim Scott, the person she's running against. It's too much.
I feel like South Carolina is having a bit of a moment here. Democrats moved their primary first in line. We've got now, so just don't make the mistake of thinking that Tim Scott could be Nikki Haley's running mate, because he can't be, because president and vice president cannot be from the same state, which is why Dick Cheney had to move his residency from Texas to Wyoming.
But very, very easily solved. Very easily solved.
When he chose himself. Circling back.
Nikki Haley just moves out of South Carolina. It's problem solved.
Yeah.
Right. Just moves her mailing address to somewhere in North Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, Mitt Romney has served as senator from both Massachusetts and Utah. I just want to circle back and say something. Doug, I think what all of this illustrates, and the quote that you read us illustrates, is really there's two places where people say things they don't actually believe.
Wedding
One
vows.
is one is when they write a blurb for a book,
Okay.
and the other is on a debate stage. Neither one of these things are places where
Yeah.
people are authentic and vulnerable and honest. They're just blah blah blah
Saying
saying the
stuff.
thing that you
Well, and Yabitz
So
wants to talk about curtain rods, and I did hear someone say something about curtain rods and curtains and some back and forth, but I had to stop
oh
watching. I had to stop
I'm
watching
I
the debate because I think it was between Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, because Tim Scott was like, "I love you. You've been important to me." But when you were the ambassador to the UN, you were basically following Obama's nonsense and something about didn't take down the curtain rods that the previous, the Obama administration had. I don't know, some nonsense.
didn't like change the
The
decor
curtains,
in
yeah,
the
yeah, something like this,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah, something
heart.
like this. But I had to stop watching it because when I hear people like Ron DeSantis say things like, we have an invasion on our southern border, and we need to
Oh,
protect the American people from the invasion. Migrants legally asking to enter the country and refugees presenting themselves is not an invasion. These people are not our enemies. If you want to stop fentanyl, go ahead, Ron. Come with us. We're going back down there. Come with us to
yes,
the border where the fentanyl doesn't come in across the Rio Grande. It doesn't come in climbing over a wall. It comes on trucks through the checkpoints, and they
yes,
only check 10% of the trucks because there's not enough funding. So if you want to fund something and you want to stop fentanyl, and again, I've made this point over and I'll continue to make it over and over. If you think the reason we have a fentanyl addiction problem in the United States is because of supply, I would like you to consider your Republican supply side economics theory that it's demand that produces the need. To
yeah,
say that the problem is the invasion on our border and you're going to
yeah,
protect the American people from fentanyl,
yeah.
it's just
So
this kind of nonsense, and it is just race baiting and xenophobic and all the other kinds of words that you say when you want to say that somebody is just being a horrible person by 2023 standards. They're all pitching the same story. And then a bunch of Democrats start pitching the same story too. And look,
yeah,
if they tie the passing of a budget to more border funding and it's not exclusively for the ports of entry, if it's not exclusively for that, then this is not about drug interdiction. It
yeah,
is, look, no cartel is going to say, do you know what's going to be our means of moving billions of dollars worth of drugs into the United States? We're going to put it on the backs of
individuals.
migrants walking through the desert. I mean,
Yeah, you
this
just
just
no,
such
yes,
foolhardery. I can't even believe it.
yes,
No, you know what we probably should do is pack it by the pounds inside of vehicles.
yes, yes.
So
So yesterday, Nikki Haley tweeted, Xed, tweeted, I don't know,
I don't know.
posted on the platform
Anybody who still
formerly known
uses
as
that
Twitter.
platform as a communication tool, it's just they don't care what it's called.
She
They have given up all.
she posted a Fox News article and said this: Border Patrol has seized enough fentanyl to kill every single American this fiscal year, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are nowhere to be found. Close the border, stop the drugs, save our families.
Close the borders.
Yeah, but
You want
Doug, what's the
trucks. You want
Doug?
trucks to
Doug,
stop coming across the United States Mexico border.
yeah, Doug. What's can I just ask you? What's the word seized mean?
Took control of,
Yeah,
has in
Border
their possession.
Patrol. Yeah, as in they were searching for it and found
They
it and
found it.
took
Yeah.
it away
Yeah.
from the quote unquote bad guys
So it works.
and then follow. Yeah. So like it's not just, come on, it's just ridiculous. Like
Ridiculous.
trying to take, it's a good thing that Border Patrol has seized enough fentanyl coming across the border to, kill every American. That's a good thing. That job well done. Job well done.
Yeah.
And you know what? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, as leaders, you get the credit. It's not like it's just, and they're nowhere to be found. It's
ludicrous.
Nikki Haley, what do you expect? Do you expect Joe Biden to be on his hands and knees with a
Ray-Bans
flashlight in his mouth and like scurrying up underneath the wheel well of an 18-wheeler coming across the border? What now? Oh, just
by the way,
so ridiculous.
If this topic is something you're like, well, I don't even know what those guys are talking about, and like tomorrow I'm going to do a whole segment on this stuff, about this topic from our time along the border, to help people understand what's actually going on the border and what needs to happen. And then we're going to talk about this one now. Big question, what has to do with the shutdown, the rest, which is the deficit. Starting to hear Republicans take the lead and say things like, we have to get our fiscal house in order and we can't keep spending more than we take in. Thursday, we're going to do a whole rundown on this, because the fundamental thing the federal government needs to do is spend more than it takes in. And if you're trying to understand how that's possible, tune in Thursday. If you've never been in one of our conversations about how the economy actually works in a sovereign currency, this will be kind of fun. If you want to pick up a little
teasing future episodes.
That's on Thursday. If you can't wait, go back and watch some of our previous conversations about any of that. Just look up economics on our YouTube channel, or go on to TED Talks and listen to someone named Stephanie Kelton and her book, The Deficit Myth, and get yourself primed up for this whole conversation. Because the two things the Republicans are trying to run on, and we've been saying this for 3 years, the border and the deficit. They're wrong on the facts on both of them. Mm-hmm. And Democrats seeking to capitulate on both of them to somehow sound like they're being reasonable. You're not being reasonable on both of these topics. So anyway, we're going to get to those tomorrow. Yes. Immigration, what's going on at the border. We're going to talk. You're going to hear an interview we did with a guy whose job it is. He's one of the contractors who runs the search of vehicles crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, and hear what he says. This is from the people right there. These communities are not being overwhelmed. Okay, we'll get to all this tomorrow. I'm about to launch into it now. Okay, we haven't even gotten to the sort of big news of the day, and that is the nonsense that is Donald Trump. Two big stories came out this week. One of those, Mark Milley being accused by Donald Trump of being a traitor and therefore should be executed. And then Mark Milley speaking out on NBC News and 60 Minutes and other things talking about Trump. And now John Kelly, former general, who was Trump's chief of staff, saying he does not care about veterans. He mocks those who have been wounded, and he makes a total and complete mockery of the military.
Yes.
That's from the person who was his chief of staff and was a general.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate John Kelly saying this, and I appreciate General Milley saying this. Guys, you're a little late to the party. Wow, coming in hot there with that comment.
Just keep going. Don't get distracted by the giant words across your face. No, don't let that shake.
Like, I know you point out every time that Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, makes an appearance in the news, that they twice voted for Donald Trump and deserve some criticism for that and need to be reminded of that. General Milley and General Kelly both agreed not just to vote for Donald Trump, but to work in his administration. They spent every day trying to serve him There's that comment like, I serve at the will of the president. I serve at the pleasure of the president. That's what the people in their roles did. They have now, and yeah, I get it. It's better, like it is better that they, get to the party eventually, but they, like, I don't want to laud them as some kind of, profiles in courage. You know what would have been profiles in courage? When you were the chief of staff blowing the whistle on this thing.
Yes.
All of these things that you saw and heard and experienced, all of these ways that you now say Donald Trump would be a threat to the nation in the future of democracy if he is reelected as president of the United States, he was a threat to the United States, to the planet, and everything that lives on it, as you like to say, Doug,
Great line.
while he was president, and you said nothing.
Or even more so, John Kelly said all this off the record to reporters. So what's happening now is he is now owning up to the comments that he was making 3 and 4 years ago. Right? So even more so, to your point, he was willing to say it, but not publicly.
Yeah.
So he saw the problem, tried to communicate it, leaked it out. He's like the person behind some books that are out and a bunch of reporting, and now has said, I'm now going to be out front and own those statements. Why has that changed? Not entirely sure. But I don't think, I think they need to own fully the fact that they capitulated. Now, I saw on MSNBC last night an interview with a person who was the chief of staff to John Kelly when he was at Homeland Security. So after being a general, he was at Homeland Security before he became the chief of staff to the president. So this person was the chief of staff to John Kelly. When he went to work,
I feel like I need a chief of staff.
When he went to work,
that would be helpful to have in life.
When John Kelly went to work in the White House, he wanted this guy to come along with him. This person said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And Kelly said to him, according to this person last night on MSNBC, when we took an oath to protect the Constitution, it was against enemies, foreign and domestic. And this guy said, and I said to him, yeah, I know. He said, no, hear me. Foreign and domestic. And this guy said, John Kelly took that role to protect America from Donald Trump. Now, if John Kelly will come out and say that, I have very little doubt that this person, being this close to John Kelly, was willing to say that without John Kelly knowing he was going to say it. I'm pretty sure. So if what's now going to now come out are these people saying, like Milley did, look, I communicated with China not to freak out. We were not going to release the nuclear arsenal to Donald Trump no matter what he said. And there would not be a coup. We're not letting that happen. I mean, that is so damaging to Trump that Milley would say that, right? It's not going to move the 46% of Republicans who are going to vote for him no matter what and all that other stuff, right? It's not going to change any of that. But if these people now start coming out and put a point on it that sharp, while I was in the office, I was there to prevent him from doing things that would harm this nation, and he is a threat, that could move the 2%, 3% of people across those 5 states where it's going to matter so Donald Trump never becomes president. But this all could be for nothing if Trump then, resigns and all the rest of it, or drops out and all the rest of it. So, all right, should we say something about the trial?
Listen,
what happened to that guy?
Okay, so many things about this are just wow. Where'd you go, Doug?
You just keep going.
I'll keep talking here. So Donald Trump appeared in court yesterday. Before he walked into court, he spent some time criticizing the judge and the process and all of it. And one of the things that he criticized was the fact that this trial is not a jury trial. It is, in fact, a decision will be made by the judge, and that is, difficult for Trump, because with the jury trial, all you got to do is like get one person to be a
Yeah.
holdout,
Yeah.
and you know, it, as it turns out, his lawyer, who's sitting to his left, our right, if you're looking at this picture, and I don't know her name. Sorry, I don't know Trump's lawyer's names.
Hobart or Hobart or something like that.
She checked the box that said, "Don't want a jury trial."
Yeah.
Filling out the paperwork.
Yeah.
The reason he's not having a jury trial is because that's what his lawyers chose.
Yeah, because they
But
didn't
he
ask
only
for
hires
one.
the best people.
Yes.
Only hires the best people.
Yeah. Well, at one
Listen,
point,
and
he didn't want a jury trial because they thought, look, they made a calculation. And then when it went wrong, they were like, yeah, but we didn't get a jury trial. I mean, it just, these people, there is just no scruples amongst them. The fact, though, that Donald Trump could be losing his business license in New York, be fined up to $250 million. He is not liquid $250 million. The fact that his businesses, his buildings have already been put into receivership, that he doesn't have the freedom to do with his businesses what he wants, this is worst case scenario for this guy. And I think they never saw it coming. I think they thought this was going to get kicked down the road for months. He was going to win the election. He was going to put an end to all of this. And then the judge just ruled, summary judgment, it's fraud. Under the persistent fraudster statute. Isn't that a great phrase? The persistent fraudster. If we didn't already have a name for this podcast, I think it might be the persistent fraudsters.
Doug, go back to that picture of Trump, if you would, for those that are watching along with us. And, Kimberly made a point about him always looking mad. This look on his face, there's anger here for me, but there's more than that. There's a certain kind of depressed resignation. And you know what picture it reminds me of? It reminds me, you remember when Donald Trump had the super spreader event in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that ended up killing Herman Cain.
Yeah, 10-10-10.
And ended up killing Herman Cain because he got COVID there. And that was the event where the kids figured out that and used TikTok or something to order a whole bunch of tickets, and so they thought they were going to have 1 million people in Tulsa and set up outside, and then it turned out that there were very few people there, and it was just a complete and utter disaster in every way. And Trump returned to the White House that night and was walking across the White House lawn with his tie untied, carrying a Make America Great Again hat. And he had this look of utter defeat on his face. And it was, in a lot of ways, it was kind of that night that you thought, okay, this guy's going to lose the election.
Yeah, he's done.
He has the same look on his face here in this picture.
Yeah, it's really
the
bad.
Same. He can't hide it when he knows he's done. And you get this little glimpse, and he's in trouble.
And there's so much in this picture from the people that are in the audience, the looks on the faces. But let's just also take a moment and just consider the lack of cable management that's going on in cord management on the back of this table. For people who can't see, there's a few laptops and screens open. It's a mess.
Since when have there been screens on the? They didn't have screens on the table. Matlock, what is happening here?
They have to watch the depositions. But there's a power strip on the table. They got a barcode thing. I mean, the whole thing. They got a thing of Perel. They've got water bottles and cups. They got
so many cups. Connector. There's 3 people at the table. You don't need 23 cups.
It's a mess. The whole thing is a mess. And it's like this perfect picture of just what utter clutter and nonsense all of this is, this Trump thing. Look, the fact that he has now been found criminally liable, which is a crime. We had a long conversation on Red Hat, Blue Hat yesterday about this, whether civil crimes and other statutory crimes should be considered crimes. Like, yes, they're crimes. And when someone commits them, they're a criminal. Just because what's taken from you is not your freedom to move around by incarceration, but what's taken from you is your freedom to exercise property rights by having you fined or having your businesses confiscated, that is a crime, and you are a criminal. He is a persistent fraudster, and the judge is now determining what the consequence and the penalty should be for being a persistent fraudster. He and his two sons. I mean, if we don't get shirts that say persistent fraudster, I think we're really missing an opportunity. It's just simply stunning. And by the way, Kimberly says in the chat, where do you get the Vote Common Good t-shirts, by the way? Which
how about votecommongood.com?
I happen to be sporting. Yes, there's a couple of ways. You can go to votecommongood.com and order yours today. We have a store on votecommongood.com where there's things available, and you can even have a choice of a lot of these kinds of shirts. Or if you ever come to one of our events, we nearly always have them there. This was, I think you can get this style of shirt with the flaggy Vote Common Good logo currently on our website. I don't know if it comes in this t-shirt color, but we got to find some way to pay the bills around here.
Yep.
So we thought that, selling overpriced t-shirts on an order on demand would be the way to do it. Didn't really work out. But if we were persistent fraudsters, we too could be worth billions. All right. I think that's our long list, right? We got through all of it. Wow. What a day. Okay. We good? I got to take my sorry sore throat and stop talking.
Yeah. And happy end of the McCarthy era to us all.
You think? That would be so...
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Rob, I am going to be so mad next Tuesday if Kevin McCarthy is still or is going to be the Speaker of the House because Democrats made that possible for him. Just say, we'll help you, but it's got to be somebody else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
All right. Hey, thanks to all of the very robust comments today.
Yes. Old man Jim H. Appreciate it.
Yeah, old man Jim H. Welcome aboard.
Danny, we're big MMT fans around here, so glad to have you in the chat talking about MMT. And
is that an MMT?
Alex?
Did Danny make an MMT comment? Did I miss it?
Yeah. Yeah, he was talking, yeah.
Modern monetary theory. Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was what's that? What's the sport where people punch and kick each other?
MMA.
That's what came to mind.
No,
yeah,
very different.
Look, Thursday we're going to be talking about MMT. Well, you know what I should say? Just a little teaser. MMT also has policy and political implications to the people who hold to MMT.
Yes.
I hold to a number of those, but the basis of MMT is how the federal government functions as an independent sovereign currency.
And
you
what
don't
you
have to get to MMT.
Yes, what you choose to do with that understanding in terms of policy and is very different. Because a conservative might say, "Oh, wait a minute. The purpose of taxes is to reward, incentivize, or decentivize behavior. Like, I don't want the government doing that. We shouldn't have taxes." And MMT would be a way to eliminate taxes completely. As opposed to saying, taxes don't actually fund the government. We could, pay for what we need a different way. Healthcare for everybody. Yeah. Yes. So you could take that understanding and go very different directions.
Very different directions. And understanding how the economy works doesn't have to land you in the place where most of our MMT heroes land. Just want to clarify that. So if people are interested in it, Rob, do you want to join on Thursday for that conversation? What do you think about it? It's always available to you, of course. Oh, okay. You take it under, you run it up with your chief of staff.
This is why I need a chief of staff. Anybody like to be a chief of staff? There, anybody still around?
Your
Want to
people be in touch with
volunteer?
my people and see if we can get something on see if we can get something on the calendar.
Yeah, but I need
we'll
someone. I need someone who wants to help me succeed, not someone who's going to try to hold me back like John Kelly did to Donald Trump.
Yeah, someone who's not made an oath to protect the Robb Ryerse empire from all enemies, Rob and non-Rob.
Yeah. Doug, did you want the speech Trump gave? I think it was in Iowa. We might, I don't know. What are you doing on Friday? We might need to do a watch along and comment on this speech because he said so many bonkers stuff. It's the one where he said he'd rather be electrocuted than eaten by a shark. He talked about.
I would like him to be electrocuted and eaten by a shark
while being eaten by a shark. It's the one where he talked about how Mexico was never going to pay for the wall.
Yeah, there was no mechanism. He goes, you can't make another country pay for your own wall. Like
that's what you said you were going to do.
We've all been saying that the whole time. He's like, of course. I mean, don't blame me for not doing that. You can't do it. Okay, well, maybe we should, because when in California, he said that people who shoplift or rob or pillage will be shot leaving the store.
Yes.
People no longer presenting a threat will be shot.
Yeah, because the punishment for shoplifting is execution.
Is bodily harm and execution. No, it's.
Hey, listen. What if you shoplift classified documents on your way out of the White House?
What then? What if you're a persistent fraudster? Get shot with a paintball gun. He also said, and I heard this one myself when he was in Michigan talking about why electric cars are bad.
Yes.
Said, I was talking to a boat manufacturer in South Carolina who said, and the way Trump puts it, they want to do the same thing to the boats that they're doing to the cars, as if electric cars are a bad thing.
Yes.
I wonder what super booster Elon Musk thinks about these being a bad thing. Did you hear what he said about the boats, though? He said, so I said to him, I asked the guy, are they trying to do this to boats? Oh, yeah, they're trying to, but they'll fill up, like the whole boat will have to be a battery. There won't be room for anything else. Like, okay, I'm not sure that's true, the engine. But anyway, got a lot of room. And then Trump said, well, if it sinks, are you going to be electrocuted? And Trump said, well, and then the guy said, I don't know. I haven't. He said, well, I gave you something to think about there, didn't I? No, you didn't, Donald. That's not how batteries work. You don't get electrocuted from a battery.
And this is what.
Listen.
Then he played the worst game of Would You Rather ever.
No.
Let
me finish this thought. If you got electrocuted by a battery, if the boat sank, boats, say it with me, Rob, already have batteries. You moron. That's not how batteries work. And then he's like, and I really gave him something to think about. And no one around there said, sir, that's not how batteries work. Like, this is the kind of utter nonsense.
Yes. And then he went on to muse about how if that boat went down and he risked electric, and by the way, with as many Trump boats have gone down, I mean, this really is something that people should worry about. He went on to muse that when the boat went down and the electrocution happened, like the other thing that could happen if the boat goes down is that you'd be eaten by a shark. And he then decided he would rather be electrocuted than eaten by a shark in just a page out of Would You Rather played by Junior Hires. This guy, I don't know. Doug, do you think he might not be qualified, might not be fit to be president of the United States? I'm beginning to think that.
I think truly, it's the kind of ruminations that somebody at the end of a bar thinks they're smart. Well, yes. I don't know. Could you put the bleach inside the lungs? Because I heard it cleans off my counter. Can we look into that? You think
Listen,
I'm not going to go? I'm not going in an electric boat. If that thing sinks, we're all going to get electrocuted. Like
they
that is
say
not smart people. It is. There
they
are
they say
dozens
that
of people around there who should say, no, that's not how batteries work, and no, Mrs. Bix or whatever her name was, that's not how bleach works. The fact that these people won't say anything to this man simply because he's a failed casino owner is so shocking to me.
looking
It's
at you,
just
John Kelly. Looking at you.
utterly stunning.
Looking
I
at
mean,
you,
this
John
is why
Kelly.
his former what was Tilson? What role did he have in the
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State said he's an effing moron.
Calling an effing moron.
An effing moron. Because just, I mean, can you imagine the stuff that they've
Because
probably
he looked
heard
at the
him say?
sun during an eclipse. He looked at the sun during an eclipse.
Oh my gosh.
This guy.
It's just too much. It's just too much.
We just did 10 more minutes on this guy.
Oh, because it just can't quit him.
Oh.
It just is giving me utter
Doug,
all right.
you see the pictures of him from behind at the court yesterday? In court yesterday?
No.
Pictures from behind.
215 pounds.
The bald spot that he is trying to cover up is significant.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, he could look sexy. He could look sexy bald. If he came out and just...
he should. Just shave it, man. Do it.
Shelley was asking how to tell people when and where to watch Thursday's MMT show. If you want to watch it live while it happens, which will not be any different than if you watch it after it's been recorded. Wherever you're watching this right now, it will play. Our preference is that you watch on our YouTube channel because we want that algorithm to reward us. That's it. It's that simple. So wherever you're watching this at 9 a.m. Central Time, and let you do the math on wherever you live. But 9 a.m. Central Time, we will be talking a little MMT right here. Okay, is that good?
Doug, quick, check your text real quick. See if you want to throw this picture up on the screen.
Well, it's hard for me to throw. Wow, it's just a picture of the bald spot. It's quite stunning.
And pink. It's very pink.
There is a way
to
do
that. It's very pink.
It's
not orange.
Yeah, it's
yeah. YouTube, Shelley. YouTube. The Vote Common Good YouTube channel.
Yes, or wherever you're watching this now. Show it looks like you're watching this on Facebook. Don't think we don't know, Shelley.
That's kind of creepy.
Oh, we know. You're watching us, and we're watching you. No, that's not true. I can just see that your comment came from Facebook because there's a Facebook logo. Like what, Shelley? When I put this up, see it how it doesn't show that little logo up there, does it? No. Does it not? Oh yeah, it does. Way up there in that little corner, way up in the far left of the screen. There's a teeniest little. Yeah. Just a teeny.
Good Politics, the Christian Left. Where is it going to be? All these places, yes?
Yes. Look, if you're only watching this on the Christian Left, great. But go to the Vote Common Good Facebook page and be sure you're following all of our Vote Common Good stuff. We don't put everything in both Vote Common Good and on Christian Left, but most things we do. But very often we're putting some separate things only on Vote Common Good. And sometimes we put some things only on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, be sure you're on the Vote Common Good Facebook page. And if you're on YouTube, be sure you've gone to the Vote Common Good channel and subscribed over there.
Folks, for the folks that are still with us here at the end, last week I said at the end of the show that there's a brewing scandal. There's a brewing scandal in Arkansas related to a $19,000 podium lectern.
The podium procurement.
Doug, it's only gotten bigger. It
really?
Is. Yeah.
Huh.
There's yeah.
The Powerpuff podium procurement predicament.
It is. This is gonna, but it's now people got real technical and they now want to call it lectern gate instead of podium gate.
Oh, who?
All the people that say a podium is something you stand on, a lectern is something you stand behind.
Wow, that's a good point.
All right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
A podium is not something you stand behind.
Yeah. There's a great Twitter account now called I Am a Lectern that anytime anybody posts anything about podiums, the I Am a Lectern will swoop in and
Wow.
correct it. Yeah. But listen, for those of you that
like a
can't
libertarian who understands that our farm subsidies go to farmers so that they won't work. It's just stunning.
Yeah. So those of you that want to you want to dig deep on how Trump scandals, how they spread. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, governor of Arkansas, spent $19,000 on a lectern that may or may not exist.
You mean there was never a podium at all?
Doug, they produced a picture of the lectern. It was published by the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, the newspaper. The lectern in the picture is the same lectern from when she was inaugurated in January. There is no lectern. And you can
Well, then there's
buy
no
this
crime. If it don't fit.
No, there is $19,000 paid to her former campaign staffers who own a company that helped organize the events on January 6th.
But I
who
seem
also
to
accompanied her
distinctly
on a trip to
remember.
Paris.
I seem to distinctly remember that was for the purchase of a podium. Did she stand on something that was worth $19,000 and not behind something?
No,
Is this all going to be straightened out by a podium versus a lectern? And they said,
well,
of course there was a podium there. That's what we gave her. You all thought that was the thing she stands behind, which is a lectern.
No,
No.
And this is why I'm in favor of continuing to call it Podium Gate, because it highlights the fact that the Huckabee Sanders administration, they were the ones who used the wrong word.
Yeah, they used podium, right?
Yes.
In their official billing or whatever, in the invoice they paid.
Yep.
Or
and in their emails discussing it. Yeah. This is a brewing thing. It's going to be a big deal. I'm telling you. Like,
okay.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders does not have the Teflon thing that Donald Trump has had. Like, this is going to be a problem.
She's going to get a lectern lecture, and that's going to be the end of it. It's all. The legislature is going to give her a lectern lecture, and that's going to be.
A Republican state senator has called for a full audit.
Of course they are. A full audit.
No, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
Okay. All right.
Kimberly's like, please be done already.
Okay, guys, I need a bio break. Look, feel free to take us anywhere in your house.
Someday we might tell you an amazing story about places we have been on this podcast.
We were doing an interview with James Carville.
Oh, you're just going to tell it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And
James Carville.
It's this, and it's live. And this happens a lot when people start to, when sometimes they don't really know, like, and this was a couple of years ago. So it's kind of maybe before people were super comfortable with Zoom. So just as I hit the little button on the screen that says go live, James, hang on a minute. I got to go to the bathroom.
So he said, I got to take a piss.
So he picks up his iPad and walks it into the bathroom. And I am scrambling to try. The reason I'm telling the story is because it's on our YouTube channel, like in our James Carville interview. You can just go look it up.
I thought we edited it and took that off because I immediately got a message from my sister who said to me, "Did you just broadcast James Carville going to the bathroom?"
Oh my gosh. But so anyway, as it turns out, it didn't go all the way in the bathroom with him. None of that happened, but it was all unfolding. So it was great. It was hilarious. So
All
yeah,
that to say,
I don't know.
feel
Maybe
free to take us to the.
I don't know if we reposted it, but okay. So now people are asking for a biological consideration and a break, and then Yabbit said, "I'm going to pull the fire alarm on this." Yeah, but I just got to tell you, that's not what opens these doors. So, okay, outrageous. I am. Can you tell I'm sweating? I now have a glow, and I don't think I'm sick. It's so hot in my basement because we have this heat wave going on right now, and I've been
Yeah,
trying to turn the air temperature down in the house.
yeah.
And Shelly's like, I just want it to be warm in our house for the last couple of days because tomorrow it's going to be in the 60s and then not get warm again until June. And I am just, it is just sweating underneath this Vote Common Good shirt, which you can get at votecommongood.com. All right. We're an hour and 30 minutes. Let's go. Let's leave. Let's be done.
Let's be done.
You done? Goodbye, everybody. See you tomorrow.